My name is Joanna Hayes. I am the Tourism Officer in County Cavan, and I work for the County Council. I'm employed by the County Council, and I manage the This Is Cavan brand. I work in product development, social media, lots of cross-border stuff, some festivals in the county, marketing, the whole area of accessible tourism as well, which is a new thing, and lots of other stuff as well. So I'm going to talk to you briefly today a little bit around what we've done in Cavan in terms of improving access in the county at large, my role in that process, some of the key outcomes that we've experienced, and just a little bit on what we've done in terms of branding County Cavan. So our approach has always been a little bit like we're far from perfect, but we're really trying hard to be in terms of accessibility. This didn't start out, the work that we've done in accessibility never started out as a tourism initiative. It just started out as an ethical thing to do. It stems from leadership, which I'll also mention and talk to you about a little bit later, but we had a county manager 10 years ago, who's since retired just recently, who had the whole area of inclusivity and diversity very much at the core of what he wanted to achieve in County Cavan. Not just around accessibility, but around inclusivity of the travelling community, around gender equality in the organisation as well. So he was very much into diversity, and part of that then was looking at access and where are we inclusive as an organisation. We had a really good access officer as well, super person who delivered and sourced lots of funding during the boom years to make a massive difference in all of our public sector buildings across the county. And then we established what was called the CRAC team, which was creating reasonable accommodation in Cavan. And really the purpose of this was to consult, and if there's one thing that we learned in County Cavan throughout this entire process is that you cannot consult enough. You must bring the people who are dealing on a day-to-day basis with accessibility issues along with you all the time. They are the key people. They will tell you where the problems are and they will tell you how to solve them. And that's what we did, and that's why I think that Cavan has been quite successful in this whole area. And we continue to do that now. I'll talk to you a little bit about that as well. So then moving on from that, during the good years, we spent about 180,000 on simple remedial works in Cavan town, first and foremost. So that was things like new pedestrian crossings, tactile pavings, dropped curbs, things like that. So that first of all made a difference. These are the people that we would have consulted with on an almost weekly basis. You're all dealing with a lot of these people anyway, state agencies, our CRAC team of course, the Access Cavan network, which are a local group of people who represent people with disabilities, and in a lot of cases they have disabilities themselves. The local authority of course, across the board, engineers, arts, library, heritage. State agencies like the Fisheries Boards in Quailshire, they're forest parks, the recreational people. So all of these people were consulted with, and we tried from the beginning to embed a belief and a recognition of the need for inclusivity and accessibility in everything that we do. So that's just a small example of some of the remedial works that took place. The picture in the top, your top right, is just a roundabout in the children's playground. That's for kids who are wheelchair users as well. So there's an accessible play area in the playground in Cavan town, and in other playgrounds across the county as well. The pedestrian crossing, actually just at the bottom, there's a girl who works where that man is walking away from is actually the Johnston Central Library, which is a county council building. It's where my office is in the council. It's also where the tourist office is, and obviously the central library. But there's a girl who works upstairs from me who's visually impaired, and her exact words were that pedestrian crossing changed her life, because she can now safely go up the town for a sandwich at lunchtime instead of always either having to bring her sandwich or get somebody to go with her. So she now can safely cross the road in the town. Do you want me to use this? Yeah. So I talked about the culture of the organisation. This came from the top down. Very strong leadership, somebody who believed in this, and somebody who got the right people together to believe that this was the right thing to do. We then moved on from things like that into the areas of multi-access paths. So all the public spaces and the public spaces and public parks in County Cavan have multi-access paths. So they're spaces where everybody can utilise. Play areas I mentioned. An interesting one then, bylaws prohibiting sandwich boards in Cavan town. And this served two purposes actually, because firstly it made people ask the question, well, why can I not put out my sandwich board anymore? I'm just advertising my business. Well, you can't, because a person with a visual impairment keeps crashing into it, and a person who's a wheelchair user has to either get off the pavement to go round your sandwich board. So it created two things. It made the town more accessible, but it also helped to create awareness amongst the businesses that a lot of these things are simply down to people not really understanding that these things that they do on a day-to-day basis cause a lot of trouble and a lot of problems for other people. That's the children's play area there as well. The other things we have free adaptable bike hire in the council. So if you want to come in and hire a bike that's adaptable for a person with a disability, you can do so. We have access stickers with all the businesses in the town. So on their windows, they'll have little stickers that'll show the outside or the level of access that they have. We focused heavily on access during festivals and FLAs. We held the All Ireland FLA in Cavan for 3 years, 2010 to 2012, and our aim that year, the middle year and the third year, was to have the first truly accessible FLA Ceol ever held, and I think we delivered that. We had a full day which focused on accessibility. We had accessible buses, parking venues, an entire parking area in Cavan Town dedicated specifically for people who have disabilities. And all of our festivals since that take into account the area of accessibility, and do we have enough space for people to park? Do we have enough space for people to get in who have accessibility issues? Our investment in our public buildings would have far exceeded the standards expected at the time, and we would have won several different awards individually for these different business buildings, particularly the Johnson Central Library, which has won numerous awards at this stage. We liaise on an ongoing basis with the Access Cavan network, really important all the time. We recently engaged with the Chamber of Commerce on an age-friendly business scheme, which worked with the businesses in the town to encourage them to make their businesses more age-friendly, which they have done, which we were recently recognised by Age Positive Ireland. And we have recently produced an accessible tourism guide to County Cavan. This is just some of the assistive adaptive technologies in use in the Johnson Central Library. That man there, Paddy Jackson is his name, using the technology, is very visually impaired, but yet he can use the technology in the library to read a book or read the newspaper, and he comes in every day to do so. I should have said, it's interesting in a way that this initially started off as the right thing to do, and then has suddenly become something that we now can offer to the outside world. So in a way, I'm standing here today as a tourism officer talking to you about a tourism product that we have to offer in Cavan. It didn't ever start out as a tourism product. It started out as something entirely different, and then became something that we now can offer to a tourist. So it's just an interesting way that if something suits the citizens of your own area, you can then provide it to the outside world then as a service then that you have as well. This is the library, the leisure centre in the town, in Cavan Town, where a lot of the equipment, you just pull out one section and the person who's a wheelchair user can then move their wheelchair in and then use the upper body stuff as well. So we're also involved with an organisation called disabledgo.com. We're the only Irish county, we're not the only Irish organisation, DCU use it as well for their campus, but Disabled Go provide online access audits. So they come out once a year and we give them another bunch of places to go and visit, and they go and they do this really intensive audit. I'll show you a little bit after this of that particular premises. And this is not about are they good or are they bad, it's simply an audit. How accessible are they? So that you're creating a system whereby people can then be informed before they visit a place in terms of its accessibility. We were then the 2013 EU Eden Destination of Excellence winner. That year the category or the theme was accessibility, so we won that. We were surprised to win it because we thought everybody else was doing a lot of this work as well, but it turns out that they weren't, and we had stolen a bit of a march. We were a good bit further on than we actually thought we were. We've worked since with Canchi, who have provided disability awareness training to 120 business people and community people in County Cavan. I should also have said, as was mandatory, all the staff in the local authority received disability awareness training as well. And I can't overestimate the importance of disability awareness training, because a lot of the issues that people, or issues, a lot of the things that, the obstacles that people have in terms of creating access, they don't know about. So it's simply a case of, if you make people aware of the decisions that they make on a day-to-day basis and how they can then affect a person with a disability, it just completely opens their eyes. And in so many cases it's ignorance. It's not that they don't want to do it, they just simply don't realise that they're making life more difficult for people. And then we went on and we won the 2014 Responsible Tourism Award last October at the World Travel Market in London in the category Best for People with Disabilities. And never was a person so surprised to win an award as we were at that time. I thought I went to London on my own, never dreaming for 1 second in Cavan that we were going to win this global award, sitting there, and the winner of the gold category award is Cavan. You're joking me. We could not believe this. So to a degree, it was wonderful to win it, and it put us on a global stage, and it gave us publicity, and most importantly, I believe, with winning awards in this area, it gave us leverage. It gave me leverage going back to the local authority, going back to the trade and the business people in Cavan and saying, we really need to deliver on this now because the whole world thinks we're the best at it. So we have to really, really do something. So, it really gives you leverage rather than saying, oh, look at us, aren't we great? We've delivered X, Y, and Z for people with disabilities. It was never about that, and it's never about the awards. It's simply about how you use that award, and that's been our approach. How can we use these awards to genuinely make life better for people who are living with disabilities in County Cavan and hopefully coming to visit us? And Caroline talked about authenticity, and that's a word that I use all the time. If what you're saying is not authentic, yes, in tourism it's important, but it's even more important when you're talking about tourism for people with disabilities, because to say you're 50 metres from the nearest shop, and if you're 100 or you have 2 steps to the restaurant, that's it. It has to be real. The information has to be real and has to be authentic, and you have to be what you say you are, because it's just end of your credibility completely if what you say is wrong. The big thing next is working with the private sector in the accommodation trade in Cavan, and we're doing that. I feel a little bit like in Cavan County Council we've done a lot, we've done so much. We really need the private sector now to come on board with us, and a lot of them have, but we need that disability awareness training delivered to staff. We need investment in their properties in some cases if they're older buildings, and we need that attitudinal buy-in from everybody. That people know the language to use, and they don't use patronising language or the wrong language and offend people, that they understand the situation, because a lot of people with disabilities don't see themselves as disabled. They really don't. They don't want any special treatment. They just want the environment that they're in to work for them. So I mentioned Disabled to Go. I'm just going to quickly show you a little bit about this. This helps in terms of selling the businesses and in making people aware of how accessible a business is. But it's also interesting to note that, and I mentioned about how this never started out as a tourism initiative, but there's 2 examples in Cavan Town whereby business people make changes to their business. In one way, one in particular, not to actually make any more money. The Easton's shop in Cavan is on 2 levels. It has an upstairs level which has all the stationery on it. It's been owned by the same guy. He was Lynch's newsagent for years, and then he bought into the franchise of Easton's. And he put in a lift about 4 years ago, primarily to make it easier on his staff to get the books up and down the stairs. And now he has opened up a whole new market in terms of people that use his business. Older people who have hip replacements or dodgy knees or just couldn't cope with the stairs. Parents with buggies, mums and dads coming in with the baby can get up and get all the stationery stuff during the week primarily. He's seen a whole new business opened up because he put in one of those. They're not the swanky lifts, the one you hold the lever and it brings you up and out you get, but it's just, he's been really surprised by the level of business that's opened up to him as a result of that. A petrol station in the town, and several more have followed suit actually. Press the button and someone will come out and do your petrol for you, so you don't have to get out of the car. Where he's finding that's helping is he's getting all the parents who have the baby in the back and don't want to be bothered having to take everybody out of the car to go in and pay for the petrol. So you get the parents buzzing for someone to come out and do the petrol. So they're choosing to go to that petrol station instead. So that's the interesting side of it. Sometimes what you do is not necessarily for tourism purposes, but you do get the business as a result of it. And as somebody said then, if we get the world right for people with disabilities, we get it right for everyone. And I never thought there was a truer sentence in terms of this whole area of accessibility. This is what Disabled Go looks like. You go on to this, you pick a category, the bottom there's tons of categories. So in this case, we'll say if you look at, say, Consmith Children's Playground, then you go in there and the venue is situated outside the centre of the town. This venue is in Cavan. It is not on a road with steep grading. It tells you precise details in terms of measurements and everything else. So these are the types of information that people need and can use. So we've done it for all our hotels as well, how far the parking bay is from the front door, etc. Is there an accessible door, is it a heavy door, this type of thing. So just briefly, James, how long have I got? 5 minutes? Less? Am I over? Oh, right, okay. Just that's the quickest 15 minutes ever. Okay, we'll have time for the video. So the challenges, are we good enough? And this, I'll just say this because I think this is also important. When we began this process, or when we realised we had a tourism product, I was nervous about it because I never ever wanted to be seen or come across as any way patronising that we were providing a service for people. I was very nervous of it, and I asked lots of people, lots of advocacy groups, how do you say, we have a product here that you might like, or that we've made it our business to make our business accessible to you? And I was told that if you have a product that works for the disability market, sell it. Don't be afraid of it. Never be afraid to say, we're good, we're better at this than the next person, because people with disabilities view themselves as a market the same as everybody else. The other thing to say is the disability market, or the accessible tourism market, is worth a hell of a lot of money. It's the fastest growing tourism market globally. People are ageing, they're living longer, they're acquiring disabilities as they get older. And as I said before, you're delivering benefits to people who do not consider themselves disabled, so you have to make the environment that you work in universally acceptable to everybody. For every €100 that an able-bodied person spends in a hotel, a person with a disability will spend 170. Because they spend longer in the hotel, they have their dinner in the hotel, they tend to travel less, and they're really loyal, and they come with other people. And if there's a group of people going away and one person has a disability, the rest of the party will make the decision based on the person who has a disability. So if your product, if your service can accommodate that person, suddenly you're getting the whole group. So it's really, really just worth thinking about. So it's not just an ethical issue, it makes very good commercial sense as well. So I was going to tell you loads of stuff about what goes on in Cavan and all the other wonderful things we're doing, but I don't have time. So that's a real shame. Is there anything else? I'm not even going to get to tell you about the brand or anything, but never mind, that'll do fine. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks, James.